Brilliance Audio presents Live to See Tomorrow by Iris Johansen, performed by Elizabeth Rogers. Why didn't she think of this city as home? Catherine Ling wondered as she looked down through the clouds from the window of the jet approaching Hong Kong. Other people would have found it strange that she had never regarded this exotic, wonderful, terrible city as her home place. She had spent her childhood here on the streets, struggling, sometimes starving, always having to use her mind and wits just to stay alive. It was only when she was 14 and had been chosen by Venable to go to work for the CIA that she had left the city. Perhaps it was because she had never been at ease enough to think of it as a haven. Wasn't a home supposed to offer safe haven? Her cell phone was vibrating, and she frowned as she looked down at it. Venable. Should she ignore it? She had no desire to argue with him right now. Venable hadn't wanted her to go to Hong Kong to be with her son. He'd had that job for her to do in Guatemala City, and he could be as stubborn as he was devious. But if she didn't get the argument settled now, she'd have to face it when she was with Luke and Hu Chung after the plane landed. Venable would keep trying until he reached her. He never gave up. "What is it, Venable?" she asked curtly as she accessed the call. "I can't talk very long. I should be landing within the next 15 or 20 minutes.
I know. I timed the call that way. It had to not be enough time for you to smolder and build up resistance, and just enough time to spark that mind of yours into gear.
I'm not going to Guatemala City. Forget it.
I've already forgotten it. I've sent Tolliver. I really didn't want to send you there anyway. You were much more suited for this other job I've had in mind for you for the last week. It just had a few awkward ramifications I didn't want to deal with."
"And where was this job?"
"Tibet. I decided that since you were so determined to go to Hong Kong, I'd give you work closer to there."
"Bullshit. It may be close in distance, but it's a world away in every other aspect."
"Unfortunately, that's true. And this one isn't going to be easy. If I didn't need you, I'd give it to the local guy and let you take your vacation."
Her voice was soft. "Let?"
He chuckled. "Wrong word. I'll rephrase it. I wouldn't try to persuade you to postpone your time with your son. There were a few headaches connected to bringing you into it. I actually was looking for another agent, even though you're as close to perfect as I could get."
"No," Catherine said with precision. "Not Guatemala, not Tibet." He continued as if he hadn't heard her.
"But I decided to leave it up to fate. If you'd agreed to Guatemala, I'd accept it. If not, you were mine."
"You're not listening to me."
"I'm listening to every word. Believe me, if you weren't so good, I'd let you out of this one. As I said, bringing you in may be a major headache."
"Good. Then you won't feel too disappointed if I refuse the assignment. Venable, for God's sake, what can I say to convince you that I'm going to spend these next few weeks with my son and my friend, Hu Chung? Then I'm going to take Luke back to Louisville to start the school year. Period. End of discussion."
"Not quite. You've not allowed me to offer my side of the discussion. Have you ever heard of Aaron Sullivan?"
"No." "Yes." Memory was stirring as she made the connection. "She's a journalist. There was some kind of big fuss about her a few years ago. I didn't pay much attention to it. You were keeping me busy down in Venezuela at the time."
"Not exactly a fuss. She won a Pulitzer for her stories about the earthquake at Qinghai Province in Tibet a few years ago."
He paused.
"She also worked side by side with the monks and the Chinese soldiers rescuing the victims of the quake. By the time the Chinese government decided that Aaron Sullivan was gaining too much star power and influence among the Tibetan people, it was too late. The villagers throughout the mountains were regarding her as their angel of mercy. Very admirable and dangerous. China doesn't appreciate interference in their policies in Tibet. But she's an American, and that gave her an umbrella of safety. She had no desire to be an activist. She didn't consider it her place. She just helped where she could.